Hi guys, welcome to today's 10-minute 2-tip Tuesday. It is the only 10-minute educational session that I hope is as fun to watch as it is to say. I have a good time doing it. So that said, we'll go ahead and get started because we only have 10 minutes. I am, obviously this is pre-recorded today. Normally I do it live every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. I had a pre-existing appointment today, but I wanted to make sure and put this out for you, for those of you who find it helpful in any way, shape, or form. So that said, before we get started, as always, please remember this is for educational purposes only. If anything that I say reminds you, makes you think of someone who you think might need medical intervention from a healthcare provider, then please, please, please make sure that you are reaching out to the appropriate licensed healthcare provider, as this is for educational purposes only. Okay, that is actually super relevant for the first tip that we're going to go over today. First tip, as always, is for caregivers. And this is really for caregivers. This is good knowledge for anyone who's taking care of someone who has dementia, but really, truly, it's good knowledge if you're caring for anyone, especially if you are caring for someone who might be more elderly. This is important information to know because it's something that I've seen happen. It's a misunderstanding that I've seen happen really, really frequently throughout the course of my career. And it's one of those things where if we can do a better job advocating for our clients and our patients by correcting this kind of misunderstanding, it could really make a huge impact on people. So the thing is, here's the piece of information, the tip to know. Dementia does not get worse all of a sudden. Okay, so and this could be someone who you know already has dementia, and then you come in one day and they seem to suddenly be more confused, they need more assistance, like they really seem like they're needing a lot more help. It's a lot worse than it was before. Or this could be someone who's never had any sign of dementia or anything like that before, and then they wake up one morning, or you come in to care for them in the afternoon, or if it's your family member, you notice that all of a sudden this person is significantly more confused. They're needing a lot of assistance with things they didn't need before. They just seem like all of a sudden they're a lot more confused. They're needing a lot more help than they did. Dementia does not work in that way. So, and of course, dementia, I think there's something like 400 diagnoses or something like that falls under this kind of generic category of dementia. But as a general rule, dementia does not happen suddenly. It's a very slow progression from one stage to another. So if you're seeing someone who suddenly becomes more confused or suddenly needs more assistance, it is highly unlikely that this is dementia. Instead, it is extremely likely that there is something else going on that might even potentially be a medical problem that needs to be addressed. So if you're working with someone and you notice that very suddenly what feels like dementia, or very, very suddenly they seem to become more confused or needing a lot more assistance, that is definitely a time to get in contact with the appropriate medical care provider in order to have that person assessed and treated if necessary. So that's tip number one. Hopefully that made sense. The takeaway from that is dementia happens very slowly. If you are working with someone who suddenly becomes much more cognitively impaired, confused, needs a lot more assistance, there's a good chance that there's something else going on with that person, and they need to be assessed and potentially treated by a licensed healthcare provider. That's not a diagnosis for caregivers or anyone else to make. As an occupational therapist, I'm not diagnosing anyone with anything if I see that sudden change, but I know that it's an indication that they need to be assessed by an appropriate provider, probably a physician. Okay, anyway, moving on though to the second tip of today's 10-minute 2-tip Tuesday. Okay, don't just be with me here. Stay open-minded because I'm going to start with a quote from Ted Lasso. And if you haven't seen Ted Lasso, oh my gosh, it's just, I just love that show so much. Okay, I'm going to start and I'm going to read it because I don't want to mess it up and get it wrong. Okay, this is the tip. Well, this is a quote from Ted Lasso, but this is about a tip for business owners, for leaders in caregiving organizations. So this is what Ted Lasso says. Taking on a challenge is a lot like riding a horse. If you're comfortable while you're doing it, you're probably doing it wrong. So that doesn't mean, of course, that everything that you do as a business owner should be a struggle. And in fact, there are some things that you can do to make things a lot easier. That's definitely what I work with my clients to help them achieve. However, what I want you to take away from that is when you're a leader in a business, when you're an owner in any kind of business, especially a caregiving organization, you're going to have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Learning to embrace the challenges that come up as they arise, because as soon as you solve one problem or one challenge, there's going to be another one that comes along after that. Learn to embrace those challenges as opportunities, as things that can actually be exciting because they're new opportunities to make things better. That's certainly how I look at it. But learn to embrace those challenges, because if you don't get comfortable with being uncomfortable as a business owner, that is a recipe for burnout, because it kind of, like I said, it's one challenge followed by another challenge. There's really no end to that road necessarily. But that doesn't have to be a bad thing. That can actually be a really exciting, positive thing that keeps things interesting. If you embrace those challenges, if you embrace this feeling of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And again, understanding that everything doesn't have to be a struggle. Everything shouldn't constantly be getting harder. Instead, we want to be facing these challenges that are hard, finding a solution, solving those problems, and then moving on to the next thing. But just, kind of embracing the fact that there's always going to be a next thing to move on to. And actually, that's kind of an exciting opportunity to keep life interesting. So that's it for me for today's 10-minute 2-tip Tuesday. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you tune in next week for a live 10-minute 2-tip Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. And until then, y'all, take care. Bye.